The morning sun rose over the Griffin household, casting a glimmer of tranquility before chaos reigned once again. Inside, Peter, Brian, and Chris sat fixated on Star Trek: Wrath of Khan, their faces illuminated by the flickering screen. Out of nowhere, Peter turned to Lois, his eyes gleaming with an unusual fervor, and demanded, "Lois, I need $28,000. I'm opening a sushi bar." His reasoning had little to do with sushi but everything to do with the prospect of yelling at patrons based on their races, a thought that, for reasons only Peter understood, thrilled him immensely. Lois, predictably, shut him down. Money was tight. She had already taken on a full-time job to make ends meet. Brian raised an eyebrow in surprise, but Lois reminded him that her new job was why they were late taking him to the groomer last month. Peter was clearly unimpressed and began hatching a new scheme. The television screen suddenly shifted to the local news, which had just announced a record-breaking lottery prize of $150 million in Rhode Island. Peter's eyes widened as he saw what he thought was the answer to their financial woes. Fueled by newfound ambition, he dove headfirst into action. Lois could only watch in horror as Peter took out a second mortgage on the house and bought thousands of lottery tickets. Brian was appalled by the sheer recklessness, pointing out that the odds were 100 million to 1. Yet Peter dismissed Brian's concerns, insisting that his good karma would guarantee their win. When the winning numbers were finally announced, the Griffin family plunged into a frenzy, sorting through the mountain of tickets in hopes of finding their golden ticket. Days passed, and exhaustion crept in, but Peter saw this grueling task as merely a test of their commitment. Just as they began to despair, Peter triumphantly revealed 2 more boxes of tickets, claiming these were the real ones. With renewed energy, they resumed their search, and as if by some bizarre twist of fate, the first ticket Brian picked up matched the winning numbers. Suddenly, the Griffin household was brimming with wads of cash. Stacks of green notes filled every nook and cranny, much to Lois's discomfort, as Peter vehemently opposed putting the money in a bank. Almost immediately, Peter started to dream up ways to spend their windfall, encouraging absurd ideas from everyone but Lois, who watched in horror. He promptly quit his job and began squandering money at the bar, even loaning sizable sums to his pals Quagmire and Joe. But in true Peter fashion, he couldn't resist meddling in their lives once he had the upper hand. With an unsettling enthusiasm, he forced Joe to sit through his favorite adult shows and even pushed a popsicle into Quagmire's mouth, much to his friend's discomfort. The tipping point came when Peter insisted on a staged performance that went horribly wrong. Amid the commotion, Peter accidentally popped Joe's eyeball out, resulting in Joe and Quagmire storming out in fury. Lois watched helplessly as the money drove her family further apart, but her frustrations briefly softened when Peter surprised her with a dazzling diamond ring, a glimmer of his old affection breaking through his newfound egotism. Days turned into indulgent escapades. The Griffins reveled in lavish high teas, dined in exclusive restaurants, and took luxurious helicopter tours over the city. Their life seemed plucked straight from a fantasy. But as quickly as it came, the fortune began to slip through their fingers, funneling into Peter's endless whims and poorly planned splurges. Then one day, the inevitable happened. They were broke, and with the house repossessed, the Griffins found themselves out on the streets. Peter, disillusioned yet undeterred, resorted to his old habit, investing in lottery tickets once more. This cycle repeated twice, a brief period of wealth, followed by destitution, until even Peter's tenacity wavered. Finally, at Lois's urging, a downtrodden Peter headed to the Drunken Clam, hoping for the comfort of his friends. To his surprise, Quagmire greeted him with unexpected generosity. Aware of Peter's desperate state, Quagmire handed him a check. The product of a thriving business venture he'd started with Peter's initial loan. With that money, Peter managed to buy back their home, a gesture that rekindled a sense of gratitude in Lois. She took Peter aside and gently reminded him that this ordeal had taught them what truly mattered, far beyond money and material excess. The family had a newfound appreciation for simplicity and stability, yet a faint melancholy lingered, a reminder of the heights they had climbed and the hard fall that followed. They were home again, but wiser and perhaps a little sadder, each one contemplating the fragile line between ambition and contentment, aware that, while the money may have gone, they still had each other. As night descended, the Griffins found themselves in separate rooms, each gazing out the windows into the quiet, empty streets.